Vian learned very early that love in her family came with conditions. Her father didn't raise daughters, he raised assets. Their house was never loud, never warm. So when her father told her she would be married within the year, Vian didn't cry. She argued. She stood in front of him, fist clenched, voice shaking but unbroken, telling him she wasn't a file to be signed away. That night, Vian packed one suitcase. No jewelry, no branded dresses, no reminders of the empire that had never felt like home. She left without permission, without goodbye, boarding a flight to Seoul. Seoul was loud, fast and unforgiving, and Vian loved it. For the first time, she was anonymous. Just another woman navigating crowded subways, cheap apartments, and unfamiliar language slipping into her thoughts. She rented a small studio. That's how she ended up applying to Jeon Group. She didn't know much about the CEO, only what the internet says. Ruthless, untouchable, and emotionless. The interview was brief, no compliments. When she got the call she'd been hired as the CEO's secretary, she didn't smile. She exhaled, like someone who had been holding her breath for years. The job was brutal, early mornings, late nights. No one at work knew that she came from money, that she was the only here for 1 year, that every call from an unknown number made her chest tighten. She told herself this was temporary, 1 year and she'd be leave. Jeon Jungkook did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. The entire executive floor of Jeon Group moved according to his presence. The way assistants straightened when he passed, the way directors lowered their tone mid-sentence. Glass walls, dark wood, minimal decor, a space designed not for comfort but control. When the door opened and she stepped inside, Jungkook didn't look up immediately. His attention stayed on the document in his hand, his expression unreadable. That was their introduction. No handshake, no welcome, no wasted words. Jungkook spoke in expectation, not instructions. You will handle my schedule. You will filter calls. Vian met his gaze evenly. No nodding too eagerly. No shrinking. Yes, sir. He worked late. She stayed without complaint. Jungkook corrected her mistakes without raising his voice. Without insults. Just cold precision. That should have been sent yesterday. You missed a conflict in my afternoon schedule. Fix it. Vian fixed everything. Vian noticed things too. How he never ate lunch unless forced. How his phone never rang with family calls. How sometimes late at night he stared out the window like Seoul was something he had conquered but never claimed. And yet something electric lived in the silences. The air between them always felt tight, as if one wrong word could snap it. Sometimes when she handled him files, their fingers brushed, neither reacted. Sometimes he watched her walk out of the room. And she was not a woman who belonged anywhere. That was why their professionalism felt so absolute, so rigid. The call came at midnight. Vian stared at her phone for the edge of her bed, the screen lighting up the dark apartment. Father. Her chest tightened instantly. She didn't answer. The screen lit up again. Mother. That one hurt more. She hesitated, then answered. Vian. Her mother's voice came out soft, careful, already tired. Your father is worried. You've made your point. Come back home now. We've raised you better than this. That was it. Vian laughed through tears. The sound breaking. No, she said hoarsely. You raised me to obey, not to live. Her mother didn't argue. For the girl who never got to choose, for the family that never listened, for the courage it took just to stay away. Next morning, she was late, not disastrously, but enough. When Vian stepped into the executive floor, the atmosphere was already tense. She went straight to Jungkook's office, bowing slightly as she entered. Her posture was straight, but her face wasn't the same. Dark circles sat under her eyes, her movements slightly sharper than usual, controlled but forced. He watched her for a second longer than necessary. Your schedule for today. Buy-in began. Jungkook noticed. Sit, he said. She paused, then sat. He skimmed the document she handed him. Eyes sharp but as always. The collaboration, what's the risk? Intellectual property leakage. She replied instantly, but the legal team has prepared. She nodded once, understood sir. He didn't ask why, didn't push, didn't pry. But as she walked out, Jungkook watched the door longer than usual because Ryan never slimmed, never cracked. Vine sat at her desk, eyes moving over numbers that refused to stay still. Her inbox was full, her calendar was tight, her mind was a mess. Her father's voice echoed where spreadsheet should have been. By noon, she compiled the documents for the international collaboration proposal and walked into Jungkook's office. Shoulders squared, expression neutral. She placed the file on his desk. She blinked, then leaned in slightly. It's not included. He turned another page. And the exit penalty structure? Silence. Jungkook looked up slowly. He wasn't angry. That was worse. That was the first time in the months she had worked for him. Wayne had never missed anything this significant, and Jungkook knew it. The realization settled in quickly. They walked side by side to the company cafeteria, the space quieter than usual at this hour. Employees bored as Jungkook passed, eyes widening slightly at the sight of his secretary walking beside him. Then Jungkook said, "Is there a problem with the collaboration?" Wayne stiffened slightly. "No, sir." "Then why couldn't you focus?" The question wasn't harsh, just direct. She hesitated, then chose her words carefully. He took a sip of his coffee. "Is it temporary?" "Yes," she answered immediately. "I'll resolve it." He didn't ask how, didn't ask with whom. He accepted the boundaries. "See that you do," he said finally. Vine stood beside Jungkook's desk, tablet held close to her chest. She was explaining the quarterly reports, voice steady, posture perfect, but her focus still wasn't fully there. A few figures didn't align. "Yes, CEO Jeon." Vine replied instantly, relief and shame mixing quietly in her chest. She turned to leave. A knock erupted them. The reception attendant stepped in carefully bowing. "CEO Jeon," she said hesitant. "There's a man downstairs asking to see." Her father was here, in Seoul, in her workplace, in his territory. Jungkook's gaze shifted to her immediately. He didn't ask if it was true. He read the answer in her face. "Is he expected?" Jungkook asked coolly. Vine swallowed. "No, sir." Vine stood there, heart pounding so hard she was sure it could be heard. "I can handle this," she said quickly, forcing steadiness. "I speak to him privately." Jungkook finally turned his chair towards her. "This is my office," he said evenly. Tailored suit, sharp eyes, the same presence that had ruled her entire life. His gaze flickered to Jungkook first, measuring, assessing, then landed on Vine. There was no warmth in it, only possession. Vine kept her spine straight. That was the first thing she focused on. Not her father's eyes, not the way her heart was trying to escape her chest, not the fact that this was happening in Jeon Jungkook's office. "You disappeared," he said calmly. "No explanation, no respect. I informed you that I needed time." Vine replied evenly. "I didn't disappear." Jungkook stepped forward slightly, voice cool and measured. "Sir, if there is a family matter, we can..." "So this is what you ran away for?" he asked, glancing towards the office. A job, I title someone else taken from you any day. Jungkook's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. You came to a foreign state alone, her father continued. Your marriage alliance is finalized. Her father went on, ignoring her. You will return. This embarrassment ends now. Jungkook moved fully into the conversation. Sir, Miss Vayan is under my employment. Any decision regarding her, she is not yours to speak for. Vayan felt it then, the wall closing in, the same pressure that had crushed her for years, the same certainty that if she didn't end this now, she would lose everything she'd fought for. She turned slightly, just enough. Her father's expression froze. Jungkook didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even breathe differently. Every second stretched like a blade. You're what? Her father asked slowly. Vayan didn't look at Jungkook. She couldn't. He's my partner. Jungkook finally spoke. Yes, one word. Low, calm and final. Vayan's heart dropped. Her father stared at him for a long moment, then smiled. Not in amusement, in calculation. I see, he said quietly. Then isn't a family problem anymore. The door closed behind her father, the sound echoing longer than it should have. Vayan still hasn't moved. Her hearts were trembling now, the adrenaline draining out of her veins, leaving only shame behind. I'm sorry, she said immediately. Her voice cracked. Jungkook didn't respond. I'm really sorry, she continued, voice trembling over each other. I shouldn't have. I didn't think. I panicked. I didn't mean to involve you. He leaned back slightly in his chair, fingers stippled, eyes sharp but unreadable. Tell me, he said. What exactly is going on? She swallowed. It's personal, she said softly. I'll handle it. I promise this won't affect the company. He paused deliberately. You don't get to call this personal anymore. Vayan's fingers twisted in her lap. I don't want to drag you into my family problems, she whispered. Jungkook stood. The movement made her stiffen instinctively. So he went on, voice low, controlled. Either you tell me everything now, clearly, honestly, or we end this lie immediately and you deal with the consequences alone. Vayan closed her eyes for a moment. She looked like she might shatter. Her laugh was bitter. He said my opinion wasn't relevant. Jungkook's jaw tightened. I argued with him, he said. For the first time in my life, I told him I wanted to work, to choose, to breathe without permission. I came to Seoul because it was far enough, she said, because here I could disappear. I used a different name. I didn't tell anyone who I was. I took this job because it was hard and because I thought if I survived my own, he couldn't pull me back.